Most financial advisors follow the industry playbook. Elite advisors choose a different path. I'm Sten Morgan. Welcome to the Elite Financial Advisor Podcast, where top advisors share the strategies, mindsets, and the stories behind building a better business, adding more value, and the courage to grow through resistance. Because becoming an elite advisor is not about working harder and longer. It's about choosing a better path.
And so as I went through my career in helping people and serving people, there was no question we had to do what was right for the client. The term fiduciary was not even in my vocabulary at that time in my career. But living every day, thinking about your values, thinking about how we can be serving people.
And so we even use a visual, and for our coaching clients, we give it to them to use for their clients. It's like in the first meeting, if you even say, if I never get to see you again, I want you to know this is what a full financial plan looks like.
There's just a natural inertia for people. They know what they need to do, but they don't necessarily do it, right? And so we become coaches and lifetime partners in helping them achieve their goals.
Welcome to this episode of the Elite Advisor Podcast. My name is Sten Morgan. Today we're going to be hanging out with Terri Kallsen. Terri is a powerhouse in our industry. She has held leadership positions at Thrivent, USAA, Charles Schwab, and now is in leadership with Rise Growth Partners, partnering with RIAs to help them level up. Terri has an amazing story, an amazing path through our career. I'm looking forward to sharing with you the lessons she's learned in different seasons of her career. She's a fascinating person, and I'm excited to spend some time with her. Terri, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot, Sten. It's great to be here. Exciting.
A lot of people in our industry have heard your name. I'm going to give you a proper introduction because you've had some very interesting, powerful seasons in your career. So I'll do that first, and then we'll dive right in. So you have held executive leadership positions at Schwab, overseeing trillions of dollars in assets, senior roles at USAA, Thrivent, and you are currently a director at Rise Growth Partners. Which one of those has been your favorite? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, one of the things I love about how you shared that introduction is you talk about seasons, right? And they are seasons in a career, and a career is an adventure. And you go through the rough seasons and the wonderful seasons where spring is blooming and everything looks beautiful. And then there's some other little stormy sessions that may come in seasons. I have a saying, Sten, that I bloom where planted, and I've raised my children to feel that way. Like you just bloom where you're planted. And so I don't want to sound Pollyannish, but every single adventure experience in my career has really led and prepared me for the next opportunity to help and serve. And so in particular, probably one of my very favorites was my first job at 3M in St. Paul, and working for a global company and seeing, international people at such a young age and how we lived in a global economy. I was very, very fortunate for that. And then, of course, when I started working with families and serving through financial planning and as a CFP, really seeing the impact of your work on a day-to-day basis, helping people through the storms in their life and the sunny times in their life. And so those were those were really wonderful, rewarding moments in my career.
What got you into the business? What was the trigger event or epiphany?
Well, like anything, I've always been really curious all my life, and curiosity has led me to different experiences in my life. But the reason why I got into the business is, my husband and I were married. We were living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I worked for 3M in St. Paul. And people who worked at 3M never left the mothership. Oh, wow, yeah. That's what it was called. You just don't leave the mothership. Well, I worked there for about 5 years, and my husband and I got married, and my husband was transferred for his job, and we were both working very hard. We hadn't had any children by then. So we transferred, and I wanted to either work for Kimberly-Clark, which was a similar type of firm, but I met the CFO at the time, the chief financial officer of Thrivent Financial, and I really liked the analytics of my job. I was always very curious. But what was missing for me was the people portion of it. And so I started learning about financial services. I went to graduate school and I got a job at Thrivent Financial, which also was headquartered in Minneapolis at the time. And so my husband was working at a company called W. Granger. I was working at Thrivent, and I took all my licenses. I started working for our field leaders. It was just a fantastic role. And then eventually I got my CFP. But what I really found is that I love to solve problems. Like that's what drives my curiosity in life. I mean, I'm one of those crossword puzzle people that loves to do that. And I've done that from a very young age. But what I really realized is that it was more than just spreadsheets. It was really the people, and the missing part for me was the human connection. And so I really learned that I can do more through people and through helping people. And that's what really brought me into being an advisor, helping people, but eventually going into leadership and coaching. So the way my career started in analytics is very much where I am today. It's just I'm much more involved in helping and coaching and leading people through solving problems.
Yeah, I love that. So in the Thrivent season, if you were to look back, what was like a main takeaway lesson from those years?
Well, um, Thrivent is a religious-based company, believe it or not, and you don't hear that so much anymore, but remember, Thrivent came from 2 very, historic fraternals, and they are a Fortune 200 company. There were 2 fraternals, and these are strange names, I know, but if you look it up, there's several fraternals in the world, and these were started by immigrants coming to this country who could not get insurance, over 150 years ago. Some of these firms are 150 years old. And so they started by pooling their money together to insure others. And USAA is somewhat like that. They're a reciprocal, but they're a pooling of our military. Thriving, it was a pooling of the Lutheran religion, and now it is Christian religion. But
Yeah.
all that aside, that's not necessarily why I joined, but what I learned during that time is that, values were critically important, obviously, if you're going to work for a Christian organization and doing what's right. And so as I went through my career in helping people and serving people, there was no question we had to do what was right for the client. The term fiduciary was not even in my vocabulary at that time in my career, but living every day, thinking about your values, thinking about how we can be serving people. You know, Sten, when I was at Thrivent years ago, we gave over $200 billion a year in volunteer grants, scholarship, um, donations to various community organizations, not just Christian or Lutheran organization. And so this whole idea of working hard and playing hard, but giving, right? Charitable giving was instilled in me in a very young age. And I learned programs on how to do that most effectively and how to measure impact of volunteering and benevolence from a corporation was a very new and unique concept for me. I mean, I was involved very early on in the Points of Light Foundation
Mm.
that George H. Bush started.
Mhm.
And that was phenomenal for me, and Habitat for Humanity, Jimmy Carter started that was very much a part of what we did every single day, and so taking that further in my career, down to USAA in San Antonio and then at Charles Schwab, it just fit nicely, and I learned so much about how do you bring your whole self to work in many
Mm.
cases.
Yeah, when you say that, it triggers in me some feelings I had early in the career where I was like, am I doing the right thing? Because I got in kind of the business to the insurance channel, and then I went heavy on the investment side, and it was always I have something to sell to make money. And a lot of times, the plan that I was recommending, say I was at a big insurance firm at the time, I wasn't necessarily, as the advisor, always buying insurance as a solution, but it seemed to always be my solution. Or when I was heavy on the investment side, it was like, I'm buying real estate. I'm doing some other stuff. I'm a business owner investing in my company, but sometimes I'm telling all these other people, oh, no, the solution's always investments. And I don't think I was doing anything wrong. It's just kind of the way I was trained to generate revenue and win trips. And it wasn't until I gave myself permission to get into financial planning and charge a fee for my time and ideas, that I finally felt this relief of like, oh, I don't have to sell them something to add value and for this to be a win-win. And I know you're now active on the CFP board, which is great. You had an experience of joining a company, values were high, let's do what's right first, let's be generous. When I coach and speak to a lot of advisors, I feel this tension and struggle still of like, I know I have to sell to hit the things, but there's so much more I want to do. What would you say to them? So anybody listening that's like feeling that friction?
Well, it's common what you're describing. And Sten, I've always believed in my case, we have to eat our own cooking, right? Like we can't just
Sure.
recommend things for people unless we also believe in it and it's a part of who we are. So one of the things that I've found is kind of a something that I think a lot about in life is there's six solutions for every problem. And if I really can understand the client's needs, what they're struggling with from a risk management standpoint, like I think about a financial plan as a triangle when you think about it. And as a CFP, I've always described it this way because even when you use the term financial plans, then, the average person out there, understandably so, doesn't really understand. They think it's investments, right? Or they think it's just purely insurance, but it's much more than that. And it's not just for people that are high net worth. So I think about a triangle. And when you think of a triangle, and I'm not very good at making a
You're
triangle,
good.
I should get a little better. But I
For those
think,
not watching, she did a pretty good
yeah.
job.
And so the bottom rung of a triangle is always the strongest rung of any triangle, right? That's where the foundation is. And actually, the Golden Gate Bridge, where I live in San Francisco, is built on triangles and it's built on the strength of that foundation. And in that bottom rung is risk management, is managing your risk. You need to have that foundation at least completed. And so when I would talk to clients, I would ask them, well, as a younger person, you probably have a greater chance of morbidity, which is an injury, a disabling injury, than of dying at this time. And if you become disabled, let's take a look at your policies. Let's make sure that you can still put food on the table at that point based on a disability. So we would talk through those things. Same thing with if not a younger person, but a middle-aged person, long-term care. Like, do you have a plan? Even umbrella policies, right? Like thinking about an umbrella policies and the coverage you have are all very important components of the risk management. I'm not just talking about life insurance, which people tend to think about. And then from there, do you have your estate plan taken care of, your powers of attorneys, your healthcare powers of attorney? Do you have those those don't cost any money, but do you have those things taken care of? Do you have a cash flow plan? Do you have a budget? Do you have college savings taken care of? And then retirement, and then any other, potential concept you have in order, like a second home. Maybe that's way beyond, but those are the things we start to talk about. But the first thing is risk management. And so if I can explain it in a way that is helpful to the client, we can take baby steps to get there. So I don't feel pressure to sell, but I truly understand their needs. And sometimes that takes a little bit longer. But that's where the beauty as a financial planner comes into play, right? Like we have such better tools now around really getting to know and understanding needs for both parties. If it's a partnership or two spouses or a family, what are their needs and where are they prioritizing? And then how do I bring the solutions to them? And that's how I've always managed it in my own head so that I don't have to think about, the pressure. I actually think about the pressure really is giving me the opportunity to think through this a little bit more. So I don't just go to the one tool I have in my toolbox, but I have multiple tools to help them.
Part of something I've become passionate about because I didn't have this training is like the art of communication as an advisor. That at times we find somebody that has a need, we have the solution, but the disconnect at times the obstacle for them taking action is our ability to communicate it clearly. And part of it is I'm coaching a lot of advisors now that even if your specialty is insurance, if that's the solution you have, maybe your firm doesn't let you charge financial planning fees, or maybe it's investments and that's your superpower. I think you can still give them the gift the first time they meet you as you explain to them what a full financial plan is. And then say, hey, we're going to focus on these two parts today. But without any context, I think to your point, most people are going to think, oh, financial planning is investments or it's insurance because that's who I work with. Where I'll use this line in meetings at times, I'll tell a client, I'll say most of the people that I meet with, their financial plans are a collection of products they bought over time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just wait. And you can just see they're like, yeah, you pretty much just described my financial plan. And so we even use a visual, and for our coaching clients, we give it to them to use for their clients. It's like in the first meeting, if you even say, if I never get to see you again, I want you to know this is what a full financial plan looks like. It's cash flow, it's investments, it's retirements, it's tax strategies, it's risk management. And I love that you use the word risk management, not insurance. And it's estate planning. It's like, this is it. And if I don't ever get to see you again, please, my hope, my heart is for you that you have a plan that looks something like this. You've
That's
just
right.
set the stage, and now you can talk about something else. But I think if we jump to the insurance solution, which is what I was trained to do, or hey, it's all about the investments, I think we're going to leave them wanting at the end of the day.
That's right. I definitely agree with you. And that education will help that client for the rest of their lives because they now have a visual of what we are talking about. And I think in the industry, we should all do a better job of creating some visual so people understand a financial plan is beyond just insurance or your retirement. Those are critically important. But the beauty of a financial plan and working with the CFP is that they really now pull all the puzzle pieces together and guide you to take action, right? We become not only the analytics and the support, but we guide you and we create action plans. And when I have worked with clients, the most effective thing that I did was not running the reports or running the performance reports, was actually sitting down with them and saying, now, did you finish that POA? The did you finish your estate plan? Did we finish the plan to do this? Like, because there's an inertia, there's just a natural inertia for people. They know what they need to do, but they don't necessarily do it, right? And so we become coaches and lifetime partners in helping them achieve their goals. And again, this isn't about millions and gazillions of dollars. This is about living within your means and being able to create the dream that you're most interested in. How do we get you there? Which is still very doable. I mean, I'll just share a personal story with you. My parents um, were incredible. They had a financial plan. They didn't know they had a financial planner in their family when I was young. But my mother, who never even went to college, was executive assistant at a company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, called A.O. Smith, and my dad was a teacher. They both had pensions, which certainly helped a lot. But we had an envelope system when I was growing up. So we only, if this was the much cash, that was our cash flow plan, right? We had a retirement plan with my parents, and they made decisions on that. They had long-term care, but they didn't have a lot of money, and we went to Florida every year. Now, we drove to Florida every year. We didn't fly because we lived in Wisconsin. But my mother now, she's so capable, and she's turning 85 next week. They taught me those those financial planning techniques. Now, did I go to college? Did I, get the CFP? Yes, I did. But deep down inside, I understand the rigor and the discipline it takes to be able to help achieve my goals. And again, my parents weren't millionaires, but they certainly retired very well, and they've lived the life they've wanted to live. And that's what I hope for our clients out there.
Oh, yeah. So what are you most excited about right now with Rise? What do you
Well,
guys work?
Rise Growth Partners is really working with advisors all over the country to help them achieve their full potential. Our job is when we partner with firms, and what I mean by that, Sten, is we invest in these firms. We're a minority investor. And as you know, in the RIA space, there's a number of options for registered investment advisors to have an investment partner as they grow. And this is an industry of consolidation right now. And, it's still in the third or fourth inning of this. So this will happen for years and years and years. And so Joe Duran started this firm where we invest in very select RIAs. We're only going to invest in probably 6. We have 4 right now.
Okay, nice.
And we're working towards helping these firms achieve their full potential. These firms need to be organic growers, so they need to be financial planners that are really helping clients grow and getting new clients. They have to be willing to consolidate with others. So do inorganic growth with others, meaning buying other firms.
Yeah.
And they have to have a leadership team that has a vision and wants to move forward because we're not in charge, they are. And so the firms that we have are phenomenal. They're growing, doubling, tripling over the next several years. They're already off to a strong start. They have excellent leaders. And the reason why I'm doing this, Sten, is I've spent my life as an advisor and helping people.
Mhm.
And now I get to take the 30 years that I've worked with advisors and at least give them my thoughts, my guidance, my navigation, and they can choose to do it or not. But we're seeing a great response from our leadership teams and from our advisors in terms of we know a path to get there. We may take different routes, different turns, but we will help you achieve your full potential in serving more clients and meeting more needs. And so I'm having the best time of my entire career because everything I've learned I get to share with others, and some they take and some they don't, and I'm thrilled with that.
What are the qualifications? Four firms is not a lot, so I'm guessing there's like a size, AUM.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first and foremost, it does need to be a registered investment advisor, a fiduciary.
Mhm.
Um, we do take some hybrids that do both broker dealer and fiduciary, but for the most part, these are RAAs. So that's number one. We value between 3 billion AUM up to 15 billion AUM because they're still small enough where we can really work with them and create the infrastructure on their platform with their people and with their products. And
Mhm.
so we that size tends to be the right size for us. And they need to have at least a unique niche that they're serving. So they have a distinguishing factor about them. So, for example, one of our firms, One Point in Parsippany, New Jersey, is prior insurance representatives from Northwestern Mutual. They broke away 12, 15 years ago. They've been growing as an RIA specifically. They were Bleakley and now they're One Point, and they're growing substantially because they're really good at financial planning. Because one of the things I love about insurance is you have to understand their total plan in order to help them with their risk management. So these guys and gals are terrific in financial planning and understanding and holding up our fiduciary standard, but they also have a very attractive platform and they bring in a lot of prior insurance leaders and advisors in the industry. So they pull from Mass Mutual, from Northwestern Mutual, from Thrivent, and they build the RIA that they wanted to create. So that's an example. Another one is in Boston. Grimes, they're phenomenal as well. They've been around for 20 some 30 years and they are an amazing what we call custodial relationship program. So their niche is they've got a national custodial relationship program with Schwab Advisor Network and the Fidelity WASP program. And so
Mhm.
they're constantly growing and bringing in new offices to serve the Schwab and the Fidelity program. And then we have another one, and I won't go through them all, but the other third one is really wonderful, and they are working with junior advisors and training them to take over books for senior advisors. So that is their niche,
Niche,
and
got it.
they're doing a phenomenal job and growing at a very fast rate. So these are customized relationships. We're not just buying and you
Yeah,
know creating these mass systems. We're really customizing selective surgical and who we'll work with and how do we help them.
nice. Okay, that's helpful to know. So outside of work, what are you most excited about? I don't know if you've run 21 marathons.
Yes, I have.
Do they get easier?
Well, I don't know if they get easier, but I enjoy the time. People always ask me when I started running marathons after my first son was born. I have 3 children, and, I was always into efficiency, and I thought, "Well, what can I do?" And so I decided, "Well, I'll just run marathons because that's the fastest way to lose the baby weight," and I didn't have a lot of time. I was working full time, going to grad
Sure.
school, and so I ran my first marathon in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and it was beautiful. I'd never run before like that. Like, I ran 3 miles at my volleyball practices, and that was enough for me.
Sure.
But with marathons, you either hate them or you love them, and I love them, so I went on to to do many. If you've ever heard of something called the Abbott World Marathons, it's marathons across the world and in the United States, and you get a medal for this. Like silly us as adults, we like these medals.
Still feels good, yeah.
Um, but it, that's the first time I ever ran an international marathon, like Berlin, London, Tokyo. It was just such a great. And I brought my kids with me, my husband. It was great. So I do love marathons now. Now I don't really do any more fulls, not because I can't, but it's just the training is so intense. So I run at least one or two half marathons with my kids now because they all are runners. They all done great. So it's more of a special time for mom and my
Mm.
adult children now. But I would say one of the things I learned through running marathons is the discipline to again apply to financial planning as an advisor. And the other thing is I would run them and I would be nervous in the beginning, even on my 20th marathon. Well, will I really finish this or not? Because you just never know. And so I
Yeah.
would be nervous. And my husband would always say, well, why are you doing this? Like, this is supposed to be for fun. This is supposed to be like your free time. And I would always say, "No, like, pressure gets the best of me." Like, this
Mm.
like, I'm listening to my body, and I feel this pressure, this anxiety, and I
Yeah.
do wonder, but now I know, like, I can get through anything. And so that feeling of running marathons really helped me throughout my career because I learned to deal with the pressure and see the positive component of the pressure or anxiety that I have.
So it normalized that feeling for like when that feeling hit, it was like, oh, that's a good thing instead of
Yeah.
it being a good thing.
Yeah, it was telling me something, right? Like, okay, why am I like, why after 20 marathons am I still feeling this way? It's because I need to perform. I need to do like I need to be at my best. And so when I do a presentation now or even getting ready for your podcast, like
You
you're an
felt it?
amazing guy. Like I was like, I get to talk with him. Like so
Sure.
I just go, okay, like that's my body telling me, like, get your A game on, Terry. Like this is good. And it helps me a lot.
I love that. I did appreciate when I was kind of reading up that the fear, as you've maybe learned about that in your life, that's was a motivator at a time. How has that changed throughout your story? Like your awareness of what was driving you, and then how is that healthier now?
Well, fear really helps, again, prepare you for the right performance. I don't wanna characterize any listeners that, like, all fear is good because that
Sure.
is not the case, and fear is a real feeling, and you need to be aware, and you need to take action, right? So but the some of the career moves that I made, like, let's just give you an example. I had 3 children. My youngest daughter was 3 months old. We moved 5 hours south of the Canadian border in Minneapolis to 5 hours north of the Mexican border to San Antonio, Texas, so I could work for USAA. During that time, my husband left his job at W. Grainger. We were both very much in the same career level, but we decided that my husband would stay home with our kids and I would work then when
Mhm.
we made the move to USAA. This was a very very challenging time because, I mean, I was working for a brand new company. I didn't know anything about the state of Texas. I think I'd been there once before. And my daughter was 3 months old, and I took the CFP exam at that time too. Like,
Wow.
it was intense pressure, and I would wake up every morning with, like, just a pit in my stomach saying, "Did I do the right thing?" We
Mm.
had a happy life, back in Minnesota, my kids were doing well. Like, "What did
Mm.
I do here?" Like, and now my husband is staying home,
Yeah.
and he didn't know what he was doing. Like, my funniest story about my husband, I don't know if he thinks it's funny, but I do, is he was staying home and I was going to work every day, and we had young children, and he would always say to me, "Well, Terry, just give me your list of what you want me to do," and I'd be like, "No, like, I'm not that like, I'm done thinking about that stuff, I got plenty to think about, like, you need to come up with
You
that list." Now yeah, after years and years and years, he has his own list now, and he's done fine independently, but that was, like, a shocker to me. I was like, "No, no, this is your full-time job now." Um, but that pressure really the fear of, "Did I do the right thing?" and the risk that we took was substantial. If I didn't pass that exam, I may not have had my job, and we would have been in a world of hurt. I did pass the exam, thank goodness, but over time now, like now in my career, what it's really done two things for me, Sten, is that one, I have greater empathy for people as they're going through life events because I went through many big life events like that, moves and job changes or, any type of sickness. Also, my dad, I didn't even go into this, but my dad ended up having an aneurysm.
Mm,
So I was also caring for him. Like these are things in life.
yeah.
Like my dad lived a healthy life, but during that time, it was these are real life events. And so it gave me empathy as I work with people. And now, as I would say, a more experienced leader at a different stage in my life, when people come to me because they have something going on in their lives, I understand. Like it makes sense. And we will get through this. Like I'm very supportive and helpful. So that's number one. And number two is it just made me really grateful for the changes that we have been able to get through as a family, and we're still together. I've been married to my husband for this is our 33rd year. I'm pretty sure we'll make it to August to celebrate our 33rd anniversary. And the sense of gratefulness that I have for all the hurdles that we were able to overcome um, has been really satisfying and rewarding for me so that I can give back to others.
Yeah, that resilience. Like I feel that, and I kind of think of some things brought up in my story. That's like I think there was a time before where I was like, I'm fearful. Am I going to make it through this? And over time, that shifted to like, I'm not sure what's coming, but I'm pretty confident I'm going to make it through this. Um,
Yeah.
which reassuring feeling.
Well, I think it does. The whole you and I are in the financial business, but the whole risk reward continuum is
Mm-hmm.
real, not just in investing, but in real life. The greater risks you take,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't always work out, but the rewards are there. Like
Yeah.
change is inevitable, so you might as well jump in and
Sure.
do what you can, because more than likely it may not be on the timeline you expect, but it will happen. And I say that to advisors all the time, like, what a wonderful job. You get to create your own abundance. Like,
Yeah.
there's not many jobs in this world that give you that autonomy and empowerment. Now, is it hard? Yes. Like, it's so hard. But by the time you actually can achieve the performance level, you have a tremendous amount of, I think, up ability to serve others and abundance in your life.
Yeah. Terri, you are impressive, and thank you for all you're doing for the industry. And I'm excited for you when I heard you talk about Rise of like everything I've done up to this moment has prepared me for this next thing is kind of what it felt and sounded like. So I'm excited for you.
Well, thank you, Sten. I'm so glad that we had a chance to get to know each other, and I wish you and all of your viewers the very best in life. And if there's ever anything that, comes up and people need help with, you can find me on LinkedIn. One of the things I've done in my career is I've mentored as many people as possible
Mm.
because I had a mentor very early in my life, and I asked her to mentor me and she said yes. So I said, okay, whoever asks, I will help. And so I just really I'm here to help people if they're stuck or struggling. Um, you know, we can do this together. So I just want people to keep that in mind.
I love that. Yeah, none of us are alone, even if it feels that way at times.
That's right.
Thanks, Terri.